Hi everyone, this is Allison Waldman here, your SoapCentral.com two-scooper, recapper, and Sunday videocaster, SoapCaster. So welcome to Sundays with the Soaps, and SoapCentral.com is your go-to site for all things soap opera, including fantastic two-scoop columns, fantastic recaps, great histories, anything you want to know about any of the shows, including the shows which are no longer on and which we still love. By the way, speaking of soap operas, have you guys seen the Dark Shadows trailer, the one with Johnny Depp and Michelle Pfeiffer? What have they done to Dark Shadows? You know, Dark Shadows, I mean, if you're old enough to remember, and I am, Dark Shadows was great. And it was the original Gothic soap opera. And yes, it was sometimes laughable because they didn't have great production values. They were actually filming, in like an empty department store, and they were using costumes off the rack and stuff like that. But Jonathan Frid and Nancy Barrett and Louis Edmonds and, Joan Bennett and, David Selby as Quentin. It was a fantastic, fantastic soap opera. And later on, of course, it became an NBC series. It became a couple of MGM movies. It's been revived a few different times in a few different ways. But I gotta tell you, the trailer for the Tim Burton movie with Johnny Depp is abominable. They've taken the story of Barnabas Collins, and they've turned the whole thing into a big comedy. And it's not a comedy. It's not the Addams Family. It's not the Munsters. Dark Shadows was dark. It was serious. Barnabas was a vampire who didn't want to be a vampire. He'd been cursed by Angelique. And he went to Dr. Hoffman, and he tried all kinds of ways to try to get over being a vampire. Of course, nowadays there's vampires everywhere. But trust me, Barnabas was really a quintessential vampire before True Blood and before, all the stuff going on now. So I'm kind of really disheartened by what I saw based on the trailer. But I will reserve judgment because, after all, you can't always tell based on a trailer. Maybe it's better than it looks. I don't know. We'll see. Meanwhile, speaking of coming back from the dead, as, of course, Barnabas did, what the heck is going on with General Hospital? Robin's not dead. Robin somehow survived the explosion in the lab, and somebody pulled her out, and somebody's keeping her alive. And now the question is, why? Now, Ron Carlivati, who's the new head writer, supposedly said that the reason he did it is because since General Hospital does not have a certain future, he didn't feel comfortable killing off a beloved character like Robin. He wanted to leave, if the show gets canceled, he wanted to leave with some hope that somehow Robin would live again. And if the show is not canceled, then that opens up the door for future storylines. So, sounds good, interesting. I mean, I can live with that. I like everything Carlivati has done. So far, it looks like the show is definitely picked up. I like the fact that Finola is back. I like her chemistry with Anthony Geary. I think Luke and Anna are great together. And when they mentioned the floating rib the other day, I seem to vaguely remember, wasn't there a restaurant in Port Charles back in the day called the Floating Rib? Somebody answer me. Somebody write me about that. Is that what we're talking about? So, General Hospital is definitely picked up. I think Carly and Johnny are a wild pair. I can only imagine how Sonny's going to take that when he finds out. And, I'm really excited to see where General Hospital is going. And as I've said in the past, I do think the addition of John McBain, Michael Easton has been terrific. And we're going to get more Roger Howarth as not Victor, as Todd. Great. Give me more. Give me more. Meanwhile, on Young and the Restless, talk about your oldie goldies, golden oldies. They're going to bring back, now they've been bringing back Laura Lee Bell for a while as Cricket, but they're going to bring back Michael Damian as Danny Romalotti. And that should be really interesting because I wonder if he's going to have some involvement with the whole Daniel story, Daniel trying to get custody of Lucy away from Daisy. That should be very, very interesting. I also think it's really interesting what's going on with Genevieve and Victor and Beauty of Nature and who's going to own it and who's going to get it. And interesting. I would love to see Genevieve sell it to Victoria. And Victoria, now that she's, inherited $500 million out of her, or not inherited, but since she's gotten access to her trust from her father and has $500 million, she can afford it. So wouldn't that be something? That would really be a kick in the pants to Victor. So I'm liking that story. And I really like Jeannie. I know I've said that before, but I really do like Jeannie. Meanwhile, on Bold and the Beautiful, they introduced, and I wrote about this in my Two Scoops column, they introduced the new Caroline Spencer. And with the exception of the fact that she kind of looks like a blonde version of Steffi, I liked her. She was very good. I thought the way they introduced her was completely ridiculous. That whole limousine driving up to the front of Forrester Creations, where suddenly everybody, from the office is hanging out at the front gate watching for her, limousine to arrive. And then to look at her, all the guys, Marcus and Thomas and Rick, they looked at her as if they've never seen a woman before. I mean, come on! They see women all the time. So it was pretty funny. And I kind of, I'm very curious to see where B&B is going, because I did like that exterior location that they did, which they've done often enough, but they're going to Italy. And, Bold and the Beautiful has always been super popular in Italy and Greece. I mean, for years, even before it was popular here in the States. I'm talking about in the late 80s when the show first started, there 25 years ago. It was always like the number one soap in the Mediterranean. So going to Italy seems like a really good idea. I'll be curious to see which characters they send over there and what the storyline is. But kudos to Brad Bell for doing a big, old-fashioned soap opera location shoot. Way to go! Now, on Days of Our Lives, I know I've said this before, but I really do like the way they're incorporating the older characters. I loved Alamania. I love Princess Gina and the Pawn. I love that Stefano is trying to manipulate them. I love the fact that Kate's got this crazy thing going on with Ian. And boy, is she risking a lot by fooling around with him, knowing what Stefano's up to. Same thing with Nicole. Is Nicole and Rafe crazy? Are Nicole and Rafe crazy? Because would you cross EJ? Knowing what EJ's done? I wouldn't. But like where this show's going. And of course, I have to give a big shout out to Deidre Hall and the character, obviously, of Marlena. I love her sessions with Will, and I love the idea that she's encouraging him to come out and to accept his sexual orientation. I think that's all very, very positive. I know a lot of people aren't crazy about that storyline, but it reflects what's really going on in this world. There are a lot of people have not been comfortable with coming out stories. I loved it when they did it on As the World Turns, and I really like it on this show. So kudos to Days for doing a really good storyline. Now, on one last story I want to talk about, one last topic I want to discuss. There was a story this week on Deadline.com following up what we've been talking about here, which is the fact that General Hospital may be saved and the revolution may be axed. Apparently, ABC is looking at the numbers, And the numbers are proving that more people are tuning in to watch General Hospital every week than they're tuning in to watch The Revolution. The Revolution is getting very, very poor numbers. It's not growing its audience. And meanwhile, the changes that they've made to General Hospital have grown the audience. So I think now is a really good time. If you're not watching General Hospital regularly, start. It needs all the viewers it can get, and it needs all the support we can give it. And hopefully, in the future, ABC is going to make their decision, and we're going to see the end of the revolution. And what I heard is that they're thinking about a schedule that would have The Chew at 1 o'clock, General Hospital at 2 o'clock, and the new Katie Couric show at 3 o'clock. But we don't have to worry about that until probably September 2012. Okay? So that's the latest news. Please, guys, visit SoapCentral.com for all the latest news, for all the latest information, for great recaps, as I said, great histories, character, anything you want to know, SoapCentral.com. And don't miss Soap Central Live with Dan every Friday. Okay? So that's it for this week. Tune in again next week to the SoapCentral.com SoapCast. This is Allison Waldman signing off, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.